All right, everyone, welcome back to the Rich Mind Podcast. Do you have a problem saying no to others? Are you completely a yes person? Greg and I were kind of just laughing before we hit record here today. We've got some people in our proximity that sometimes they struggle to say no. And I'll admit, sometimes I have that as well, trying to be a people pleaser, trying to make everybody happy. When in reality, it's really taking you away from who you're trying to be, who you're trying to become. Do you struggle with that? Do you struggle telling people no? Do you have a problem with opportunities to show themselves, right? To know whether or not it's the right opportunity or if it's the wrong opportunity, right? How do you decide that? In the last episode, we talked about identity. And in my opinion, when you figure out who you're really trying to be, right? Who you're really trying to become from a deep level from within yourself, you're really able to start. There's hard yeses and hard nos. It's like instantly, whether or not this opportunity or this person, if I say yes to this, it's going to trigger off so many other different things. And if that doesn't lead into who you're trying to be, it's a hard no. And you just walk away from it. You don't worry about it. You don't think about it. You just move on. That's been my experience. So, yeah, like I said, Greg and I, we came up with this idea as far as, are you a yes person or are you a no person? And thought that would be a fun conversation here today. Any thoughts on that, Greg, so far?
Yeah, this is, I think it's an important topic. I've heard some other podcasters talk about people pleasing and, how to say no, when to say no, exactly what we're talking about here. So yeah, it's kind of really bringing into our own lives and experiences. And I think for me, like it's a spectrum of like, sometimes you're going to say yes, other times you're going to say no. Just kind of depends on the situation, the person, the circumstance, obviously. But I think we're just talking about in general when you want to say no, but then you end up saying yes for some reason. That's, I think, more of what we're talking about as far as just giving in to the other person because you feel bad or you want to please that person. You want to make them happy and say, all right, fine, I'll, do this or I'll do that activity for whatever. But you really deep down, you're like, yeah, I really don't want to do that. So we'll get into that a little bit about that today.
So, yeah, so I chuckle with that because I see that even in myself, right? I see that a lot of times in others as well, is that they will, at the sacrifice of themselves, they'll
Hmm.
continuously say yes to certain things or certain people, when in reality they just don't want to do it. In reality, it's not going to move the needle forward for themselves,
Hmm.
and so they're setting themselves up for a future event that may or may not be where they want to be, how they want to, what I mean, as far as like how they want to show up in the world, part of who they are, who they're trying to become. So from your experience, you mentioned that you had listened to a podcast or you've read a book or something a lot about that, where they were. It's like the complete opposite. They just kept saying that you just always say yes, just keep saying yes, 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 yes. Once again, when you brought and you mentioned that to me before we hit record today, I started laughing because I can only imagine. Can you imagine your life or how life would be is if everything you just did was just a yes? I can only imagine what chaos that would create. Now, at times, I'm sure that could be beneficial. So it just depends on the circumstances. But yeah, tell me more about this podcast or this book that you read about that subject.
Yeah, I think it just comes along in entrepreneurial circles sometimes of, when opportunities come your way, say yes, just kind of take all those opportunities and kind of run with them. But on the other side of things, I mean, first of all, you have to know what you're getting into and what you're doing. So you can't just say yes to, building a sky or a high rise or something if you have no experience in that. But also, you do have to protect your time. And I know a lot of like wealthy people, successful people, they protect their time because they realize that, they can always make more money. They can always do other things, but time is just ticking away for everybody. So really successful people, they protect their time and they're not going to say yes to everything that comes their way because like you said, it doesn't help them achieve whatever goal that they're looking to achieve. It doesn't help them move that needle. It might help, that friendship a very little percentage if they say yes to something that they really don't want to do. But at the end of the day, I think you have to be a little bit selfish with your time because like I said, we all, have a certain amount of time. We don't even know that amount of time. It could be a lot shorter than we think. It could be longer than we think. So yeah, really protecting your time, and you have to do that by saying no to, a handful of things, and even to people that you like and love. And it's just the way it is. And it's I guess it's more of a mentality that you have to adopt. And if you're comfortable adopting it, there's a lot of things you can do with it. If you're not comfortable adopting it, then you're just going to probably end up, living your life the way it is now, as a people pleaser, or, not to say that's good or bad, but if you want to change and you're not making the steps to change, then that could be an issue.
So Jim Rohn, talk about Jim a lot here on the podcast. One of the things he says, and it rings in my mind all the time, is that time is more valuable than money. And that's what you just said right there. And I love that. So I try to keep that in mind. So the question that's going off in my mind, and this is more of a question back to you, Greg, is how do you, like when you're in a relationship, whether it's a business relationship or you're just trying to build a friendship, how tough is that then to understand that there are times that you need to invest? So it's almost like an investment of your time versus just a flat out just giving of your time. Does that make any sense how I'm saying that? So
Mm-hmm.
it almost even sounds like it's negative coming out of my mind as I'm saying it out loud, but it's just, how do you keep that boundary from understanding that it's not just you're not just showing up just to give all the time. And so that's not even a good thought as well. So I'm not articulating that the way I should, because we should show up to give, add value as much as we possibly can. But it's just understanding that it's not necessarily always going to be a yes every single time for every single situation. And it's just like drawing that line between, somebody that's a yes person saying yes to everything, every opportunity, maybe even the shiny object syndrome. We talk about that sometimes, as far as like every opportunity that comes their way, they're always saying yes. Any thoughts on creating those boundaries for opportunities that keep arising? How do you, or what are your thoughts on trying to get those boundaries set up for yourself so that way you're not saying yes or feeling like you need to or have to say yes to everything that's coming your way?
Yeah, and I've definitely fell into that trap in the past, I don't know, 3-4 years, where um, I was looking for opportunities, and I found something. I said, "Oh, this sounds cool," and then yes, 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 and then I was like, "Wait a minute, this doesn't feel like it's right for me," or whatever that situation was. I know a story back in the day. I was meeting with a real estate investor, and we were just kind of casually talking, and I think he was buying fourplexes. And I was talking about some other investment or whatever, and everything, and he just flat out said, he's like, "No," he's like, "I'm good. I know what I'm doing. I have a path. I'm sticking to my path. I appreciate you kind of pitching this investment to me." But he said it really like nicely and bluntly, and it wasn't like I took offense to it or anything. It was just, "I know what I'm doing. I'm staying on this path. I don't need a distraction right now. I appreciate it. Good luck to you. If I can help you out in any way, great." So I think it's just understanding what your ultimate goal is for whatever, realm you're in: health, relationships, business, whatever. If you're, yeah, if saying no is going to help you achieve your goal or maintain that path, then you have to decide, is that no worth it for you? Or maybe every once in a while you say yes. It's a personal kind of decision, but you really have to, like you said, create those boundaries and really be disciplined to stick to them.
So understanding that why, that what you are, what you're trying to become. I'm just literally in the process of editing an episode that's coming out about opportunities being everywhere. And within that episode, we talked about your imagination. So your imagination is running wild, showing you are having different ideas, different opportunities are popping in your mind. Once again, the shiny object syndrome. You're trying to do all things for all the time for all the people, when in reality, until you get crystal clear on what it is, that who you are, what you're trying to become. I struggle with that even on a day-to-day, weekly basis. Let's just maybe say that's not day-to-day per se, but definitely weekly. So I'll be involved in what I'm supposed to be doing, whether it's creating the podcasts, watching Rowan. So I watch Rowan most of the time when he's around, my grandson. But my mind is racing, thinking, "Oh, I should be doing this, or I should be doing that, or I should," you know what I mean? It's always I should. And when I get that way, it's like my mind is pushing up against these opportunities are being presented in my own mind, but I don't. It's a struggle sometimes to have that ability to say, "No, I don't need to do those things, because that's not exactly what I'm trying to do. That's not exactly who I'm trying to become." Just like what you said with this example with this person you were given this opportunity towards with the investment. Until you get crystal clear on who you're trying to be, this ideal version of yourself moving forward, opportunities when they present themselves, whether it's other people, investment opportunities, whatever. They're all going to sound great. And when they all sound great, you're going to feel like you should be saying yes to all of them. When in reality, so you're going to be spread out all over the place, not doing really well in any of them, versus when you get laser focused on exactly what you're trying to do, focused on what you're trying to become. And then everything else, like you said, it becomes a distraction that you just need to eliminate. Say no to those things. That's been my experience. And I still struggle with that even still today. I still struggle with the idea that I should be doing other things. Like, so other people's ideas and thoughts are in my mind that I should be doing this and I should be doing that. In reality, no, I shouldn't be, because that does not fit into who I'm trying to be, who I'm trying to become on a daily basis, show up and be the best version of myself. That's where having that boundary, I think, is so important. And so, yeah, I love that idea of that person had they knew exactly what they were trying to do, and your idea didn't fit into their version, their vision of who they were trying to become, and it was a hard no. Which in reality, like you said, he didn't do it mean. He didn't, it wasn't disrespectful, wasn't anything like that. But at the end of the day, it kept him on his path and didn't get distracted from achieving this outcome and this goal that he had set for himself.
Yeah, and one of the things that I would like kind of going along this message is I think the hardest thing is actually just saying no without giving a reason or an excuse. Because it's so easy to be like, oh, you don't want to come over Friday night and be like, oh no, we already have plans, or oh no, whatever, we got this going on. Instead of just being just like, yeah, no, we're good, thank you, appreciate it. Like it sounds so rude and like so blunt, because I feel like in today, or just even as a human, like when you say no, you always have to give a reason why to justify it, so you don't feel like you're being selfish or just like basically just shutting them down right away and be like, no, I'm not coming over Friday night. That's it. Like there's no, so I think it's like an art, because I've not mastered that part of it. I always feel like I do need to say, no, I can't do this because of X, Y, and Z or whatever. But I think that's like the master level. If you can like clearly communicate your no in a friendly way without giving any kind of excuse or reason. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Is that like something that, I think we all kind of do it, but what are your
Yeah,
thoughts?
yeah, I agree. So the thoughts that are going on in my mind is that we're always worried about what the other person is going to think or say
Mm-hmm.
versus being focused on who we are, right? So we have friends, we have family, right? It's close family. I'm talking husband, wife, children, right? Close family that maybe you need to pay attention to what their thoughts and ideas are for, what I mean? Maybe
Mm-hmm.
have a little bit more in touch or in tune about what they think you should or should be doing. But the ability to disconnect from worrying about what other people, if they don't have really much or they shouldn't have much input on who you are, then it shouldn't matter. You shouldn't have to necessarily come up with that reasoning or that excuse. And I understand. Yeah, you're right. You're 100% correct. When you say those things, like when you give somebody a no, I can't, you always feel like you need to come up with an excuse as to why versus just owning it. Meaning it's not, you don't want to say it rude. I'm not saying go out and just flat out, no, 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 no. That's not what I'm saying at all. But just saying it in a way that is like, no, that doesn't fit into who I am, what I need to do. So, for example, with the health piece, so if you know that you need to do X, Y, Z on a continuous basis, and someone invites you to go to this dinner or whatever, that completely, if you don't see a way that you can do what you need to do for yourself, but you've been invited to this thing that's going to completely take you off track of the goals that you've got for yourself, having the ability to say no, respectfully say no, is going to be crucial for you to become and be this person that you need to be. Um, yeah, so that's kind of what my thoughts were when you mentioned that. As far as it's hard to disconnect from the thoughts and worrying about what other people are going to say, what other people are going to do. Um, yeah, that's where it's, it kind of gets jumbled up in my own mind as I start to think about it and speak about it here today.
But I think one of the things it kind of gives you like momentum when you start saying no. It actually feels pretty good. Like for yourself, like selfishly, it feels good. When you're saying no for obviously the right reason, you're saying it in the right way. But then you're like, yeah, like you look back on it and you're like, you know what? Like I did protect my identity or my Friday night or whatever they were asking me to, kind of do. If I really didn't want to do it, looking back on it, you're like, yeah, I'm proud of myself because I didn't give in to, going to some movie that I really don't want to go see. And then you're like sitting there and you're not enjoying the movie. It's just, instead of just being like, you know what? Yeah, no, I'm good. And it's one of those things. I think it takes practice and repetition and really being self-aware of when you do say no, how it makes you feel in that moment. And then also maybe afterwards, kind of looking back on it. For me, it's a little bit of pride of like, yeah, I did the right thing for myself. I don't want to be selfish 100% of the time, but when it's justified and I felt good about the no and be like, all right, cool. I did the right thing for myself. And that was like a good win for the day, I guess, if you want to look at it that way.
Of course. Yeah. So once again, it comes back to that self-awareness. When you become aware that these things are going on around you, that these things are going on within you, your thoughts, your ideas, your emotions, when somebody asks you to do certain things or when you feel obligated to do certain things, how does that make you feel? That would be probably one of the first questions I would ask yourself is how does that make you feel? And if you start to feel anxiety or nervousness or anything of that sort, you need to question really where is that coming from? Why is that even happening? And until you get aware of what that is, why it's happening, you can then start to take different actions, which is going to definitely give you different results. So it comes back to in my mind, to that clarity. You need to get crystal clear on who you're trying to become with the version of your life. You're not living for your parents, you're not living for your family members, you're living for yourself. Now, these people have to coexist in your life, right? They need to be coexistent in your life, but they don't have to be the dictator of who you are, how you show up, your decisions that you make. When you get crystal clear on who you're trying to become, whether you're trying to build wealth, whether you're trying to get healthy, or you're trying to leave that legacy for your family, when you get crystal clear on those three pillars of your life, then you can start making different decisions. And these no's then become easier. Like you said, you can start being almost prideful of being able to say that, I was able to say no to that, what seemed like an opportunity at the time, but it was totally going to derail me from this path that I'm on towards this goal of who I'm actually trying to become out there in the real world. So yes, it becomes, once again, it's a self-awareness piece. Triggers can be part of that as well. You can get triggered negatively with somebody, pressuring you to say yes to something that deep down, because of the trigger. I talk about triggers, how your blood pressure might rise, right? Your temperature might rise, your heart might begin to race. When those things start to happen, you need to be aware of them, number one, but then question, why is that happening? But then having the courage to stepping into this no and understanding that the no isn't going to end the world no matter what. Now, it might set some people off not feeling too good about the situation, but at the end of the day, if it's your no, because it's not going to lead you into this person that you desire to be, it was the right decision in that moment, whether or not the person agreed with you or not.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you have to get your head wrapped around, is that it's not necessarily even a no to that person. It's like you're not trying to insult that person. It's not who I am. It's not who I'm trying to be, and being okay with that. So yeah, I love that awareness piece. That's so important for sure.
Yeah, and I think now that people are aware of, kind of what we're talking about, you will realize you can look at other people in your life and say in your own mind, oh, are they a people pleaser? When they say no to me, how do they say it? Because now that, we're talking about it, you'll be more top of mind. Oh yeah, Randy did just say no to me, and it's fine. It's not. And that was the other thing I was going to mention too. If I say no to you or you say no to me, and it affects our relationship, like if it's like something very small or something like, oh no, I can't, get together Friday night or whatever, and that's like a deal breaker on the relationship or something, then that's a whole nother area of, well, maybe the relationship isn't as strong as you think, because if I can't tell my buddy no, I can't hang on a Friday night, and it's going to negatively affect our relationship, he stops calling me or for whatever reason, then that's a whole nother story. But you have to stick to your guns and, say no for your own reasons. And maybe it's a conversation you do need to have with, that person if it comes down to it. But at the same time, yeah, just again, being more aware of yourself and people around you, people pleasing. It's kind of interesting. It's like a fun activity just to go through the Rolodex of people in your life and be like, oh yeah, that person definitely is. That one maybe. So it kind of gives you a different perspective on them a little bit too. Not that it's going to change anything, but it's just another awareness piece of the people in your life.
Yeah, if a simple no that you can't do something, or if if that's a deal breaker, yeah, that there's bigger problems there for sure.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that, right? So if you've built some kind of a relationship at all, yeah, if you can't have the ability to set some boundaries for yourself and yeah, people start to distance themselves from you, then yeah, that there was something wrong there to begin with. I love that piece as well. So one last part I want to bring into the conversation today is that it's going to require courage. You're going to need to have confidence in yourself in knowing that the outcome where it might not be exactly pleasurable, but it's also you need to have confidence that whether either if it isn't pleasurable, but it's going to help you propel towards this bigger vision. You need to have the courage to step into that and own it. Uh, so, for example, with my wife all the time, I'm always telling her, you just need to be confident, confident in yourself, confident in who you are, confident in sticking up for yourself, not being pushed around. Once again, going back to the being in the driver's seat of your life. And that's a big portion of it as well, is the confidence, the self-esteem. That's once again becomes that part of that awareness. And that's where this personal development piece comes into this conversation as well today. Is that if you aren't confident in yourself and your ability to make decisions moving forward, you're going to struggle with this part of your life. And if you choose to step into this, if you choose to take some ownership of what we're talking about here today, courage. You need to really have some courage, but step into it. It's going to be a little uncomfortable. I get that. I promise you, it's not going to be the end of the world. I promise you that. Test it, try it, say no every now and then when something presents itself to someone or something. See what it's like. Work through those emotions, become aware of how you feel, write about it, journal about it. And that'll be the process to get yourself out of this people pleasing mode of saying yes all the time to really taking ownership of who you are, who you want to become, the activities you want to do on a daily basis to reach this ultimate lifestyle that you're trying to achieve. So, love this, man. Any more thoughts on this portion of the conversation here today? Yeah, this has been so much fun as always.
No, I think the last piece was great. I think you do have to kind of step into exactly what you're talking about and kind of embrace being a little more selfish than you think you should be. Just because I think the word selfish gets thrown around as negative, but it is also you taking care of yourself and putting yourself first. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think a lot of people should do that and do that, but the people that we're talking about, the people pleasing, the people who have a hard time saying no, they are not on that side of the fence. And if you want to get on that side of the fence, like Randy said, you have to do some work and it might be uncomfortable, but like anything in personal development, it's just, work through it and it might struggle a little bit, but at the end of the day, once you get to the other side of it, you'll realize, what you've been missing.
One step at a time. It's all a journey. It's not a straight line. It's the destination, and you try to enjoy the experiences along the way, getting some crystal clear, some clarity of what it is that you're trying to accomplish. We talked about identity in the past episode. So it's like, who do you identify or what do you want to identify as? It's not necessarily what you do on a daily basis. Maybe you, in your current activities, you are more of a people pleaser, but you want to change that identity of yourself and become more of a Greg uses the word selfish, becoming more selfish for yourself. And I love that because you're going to start doing things for yourself. Self care is very, very important. And part of that is just being able to put up these boundaries of really like a shell around yourself, keeping you from people, keeping you from situations that, yeah, they might have felt comfortable in the time of saying yes, but when you're in them, it's like you realize that, yeah, I shouldn't have done that, or I shouldn't be in this spot. And then it just creates a whole nother negative situation moving forward. When in reality, if you just would have had that hard no at the very beginning, the situation wouldn't have happened and your life would be so much in a better place moving forward. So, as always, folks, hopefully you found value in the message that we're sharing here today. Do you identify as being a people pleaser, somebody that's saying yes, or do you have the non-belief in yourself to say no more often? That would probably be the encouragement that we have here today. Is once again become aware of that situation for yourself, and when you become aware of it, then you can start making some different decisions, and the different decisions will lead to different actions, which will lead to different results. So that's what we want to encourage you here moving forward today. So as we get into the next episode, we're going to talk about some, if you're really trying to achieve success, what are the few things you need to do to work on to achieve this grand life that you're really trying to achieve for yourself. If you've set up these boundaries for your life, you've decided that I'm going to start saying no to certain things, that I'm going to really start focusing on exactly what I want to do to achieve this great lifestyle for myself. What are those things you need to focus on? And that's exactly what we're going to talk about in the next episode. So we encourage you to drop back on the Rich Mind podcast, join us again, and we'll love diving into that next conversation as well. Reach out to us at info@richmind.co and leave us some feedback and let us know if you have any questions, concerns, even about this conversation or the previous conversations. Feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to communicate with you as well. Head over to richmind.co and you can grab all of our free resources. We're trying to help you achieve this greater life, becoming the better person, the better version of yourself moving forward. And part of that is the personal development. Part of that is health, wealth, and legacy, and building those pillars in your own life moving forward. So, as always, we appreciate your time and attention. We look forward to coming back with the next episode again very soon. Until then, bye now.